Due to crashes and so forth, I had to go back in and just reload the ship that I used in the next segment. It's a pretty basic design. You should be able to build it pretty early in the game. The FLT 800 fuel tanks times 2 and then times 4 to make the stack around. The basic radial decouplers are here, and then just basic struts. Also in the center, the 800s. The engines used here are the swivels. Very early on they're unlocked if they're not open by default. I do have a inline reaction wheel to handle the turning and everything a little better. Also with aerodynamics, we have the cones on top and fins on the center section and fins on the outer stages as well to keep it stable in flight. As we're separating the command module, is just the basic command module available early in the beginning of the game, and the parachute also available very early on, if not right at the start. And this is an asparagus staged rocket, so fuel will feed from these tanks out into these tanks first, and then down into the primary tank from the middle stage. So it will separate these off first on this side, and then these off, leaving the center stage to go into orbit. Alright, let's move it on to the launch pad and get it started. And we're back from a crash. So, yeah, let's launch it up. Full throttle and spacebar to fire the engines. And we will take it on up. I'm going to keep this relatively straight and up until we decide to drop our first stage. Relatively. At about half of the first stage fuel, I'm going to start to pivot over just ever so slightly. And since I can see my asparagus stages are not optimally lined up for this, I'm going to hold Q to rotate just before dropping the stage so that gravity will help it along. And we will rotate back over just so the control scheme is the same and familiar. And we'll continue to turn. Normally I'd make my turn much sooner than that, but it doesn't really matter. I've got plenty of fuel, and if you built the rocket the same way and follow the steps, you should too. I'm going to go ahead and start leaning over more and more. The more you lean, the faster the time until apoapsis, as long as you're still gaining altitude, and the faster the apoapsis will incline. And I like to, it starts you out at the equatorial view. I like to go to polar if I'm trying to get an equatorial orbit going. At about, let's say, 100,000. We'll stop climbing. I'll hit X to kill the engines. That's good. And we will time warp until you can steer from this as well. It's not as fun as watching your ship move, but you can still do it. And I'm going to line it up for horizon. And we'll just time warp a little bit more. And whenever I'm approaching apoapsis, I like to burn a little early so that I can keep it close. And this is what it looks like. Yep, at another stage, but those will fall into the ocean or wherever, unsuspecting populace. And we're waiting for periapsis to pop out the other side and to grow to about 100,000, that's good enough. And now we are in orbit. So if we wanted to get out and take an EVA report, if you're playing in science mode or career mode, and you know, there you are, there you have it. So to get back, all you do is turn it around. And that SAS, I engaged it a little too late. All you do to get back is burn retrograde until the periapsis falls back into the planet. And wherever you want to go. So if you want to land in the ocean, you can do so. I would recommend not landing on mountains. They can do crazy things sometimes, especially whenever the parachute's done. And we stop here. That should be in the sea. Yep. Maybe a little more out into the sea. Okay. And we can drop that stage, and because it will fall in automatically. And I like to line it up a little bit. Let's see, let's face retrograde, just so it will have an easier time finding retrograde and kind of staying on that as we enter the atmosphere. And here we are, starting to just tap the surface. And we're getting into thicker and thicker atmosphere. As you can see, atmosphere is gaining. We're getting re-entry. It's getting really, really hot. And go ahead and hit the parachute. Let it start slowing us down a little by little until we get close to the surface. And Jebediah is he's so happy to be back home safe and sound to revel in his first orbital flight, to eat and drink whatever it is that Kerbals eat and drink, to enjoy the accolades of his colleagues, we'll just time warp on down to the surface. 20 meters. And splash down. And there you have it. Just completely done. Orbiting in Kerbal Space Program. Thank you for watching.